Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Bryan. We're going to continue on today with a special request, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today's special selection comes at us from Nick, Eivør, Falling Free, live at the Old Theater in Torshavn. So, let's get into this. Don't have a lot to go on here, so let's just dive in and see what kind of music they're bringing to the table.
Your eyes tell me stories that I can understand.
Triplets on the reverb, but it seems like we're in 4/4.
I have seen the future written in your hand.
Interesting little twang there. The embellishment on the word path.
I am falling down, hoping you'll catch me.
Interesting, this section says I'm falling down, I hope you catch me. The pitch is higher than ever though. We actually went up in pitch, rising, not falling. Oh, we got some fuzzy mallets. Okay, not as big as I thought we were going, given the roll, but let's see where they take this. There we go, that's what we've been building to. Oh, dude, we got towels on the tom and snare also to reduce the reverberance there. It's going for a really light and dry drum kit, which absolutely fits this atmosphere. interesting bringing in all that dirt. I love the feeling of the cymbals. The mallets were just such a good choice for this track. Dang. Really interesting not to use some sort of tom, snare, bass on that final hit. It just kind of evaporates, which is very cool. It just the visuals kind of don't, because she jumps up and lands, and you just feel like boom, and then you don't get that. It's just like shh, and just like everything just naturally fades out, trails off. But I like it. The whole song kind of feels ethereal in some ways. So not having any concrete like ending, and just having that sort of like the fog or the mist parting, and having clarity afterwards sort of fits with that sort of feeling that the song goes for. Um so musically, we have a slow burn. A slow burn that is like 5 minutes long, and then we have 1 minute at the end, give or take. Oh, I guess it's about 4 minutes long, because our last minute is credits, I'm going to assume. So 4 minute long slow burn, and then the outro, which is a drastic, sharp turn back to our sparser opening. That gives us a quick build back into a very full sound, and then the dissipation of it. But both our first slow burn and our quick ramp up at the end are all based on the same ideas. This is very much a song with just an A section to it, and slowly builds on itself, adding more and more layers until we reach the full final work of art. And the journey from a single vocal, single guitar, I don't remember how we started. The journey from that to our peak is the experience of the song. So I think I'm just gonna kind of talk about everything that I found important in the build up, not necessarily the build up itself. Um, and here's something that's really interesting, right? Let's start with the drums. We'll get into the interesting thing in a second, because I gotta gush about these drums. Here's the thing. This is a very soft drum sound, right? So with the fuzzy mallets, I don't know exactly the science behind it, but they tend to have less harsh attacks. I don't know what it is about I mean, the mallet is a wider ball at the end of the drumstick rather than the traditional drumstick, which has like a pointed piece of rubber, plastic at the end of it. It's narrower and more concentrated. So the larger ball at the end is probably has something to do with, I don't know, force displacement. Maybe it already nullifies a little bit of the attack, but then you're also dampening it with all the whatever the fuzzy stuff is around it. Anyways, regardless, like I said, I don't know the raw science behind it, but the end result is that it's a much softer hit. And I do think there's some production magic going on in here. If you go back and listen, I'm pretty sure that there's specific ways that the each of the drums in the kit are mixed live, of course, by the engineer. But I do think that there is a little bit of extra help on the attack of kind of reducing it a bit. But when you listen to when they hit the cymbals, when they hit the drums, it isn't this loud crack, especially with the snare or this initial punch, like when we hit the tom or the bass kick. Um, it's sort of muted, and you sort of just get this low end hit out of these instruments, or with the snare you get the sound of it, but you don't get that initial peak. Like if I imagine volume wise with this stuff, you haven't hit it yet. As soon as you hit it, it spikes, and then it quickly comes down and diminishes, and you have this spike that's our peak. This is more like it rises flat and then diminishes, and then rises flat and then diminishes. It never quite hits that really percussive start. And some of that comes from the towels on the drum heads. It comes from the fuzzy mallets, and like I said, there's probably a little bit of production in here too to help mute that initial attack. But what it does is it shaves off the aggression in the drum kit. Whereas a lot of drumming is these moments of silence and spikes and quick trails, this is silence and sort of elongated medium points, not spikes, sort of sitting around in the middle for a little bit, resonating and then trailing off. And it just provides a very different character to the drumming that is absolutely necessary for this type of music. Especially with the way the drummer plays, which is probably going to be a little bit of responding to the way that the drums sound. They might even have the mics, not necessarily the mics, but have the drums EQ'd a bit lower volume wise so he can play louder if he wants. But he's tending to hit the kit pretty hard for the sounds that are coming out of it. But yeah, it's just a song that I think in any other band would probably use just lighter hits, trying to be quieter on the drums. And this drummer just doesn't, so we achieve it through all these other elements and get this smoothness to the playing that they are physically not bringing to the table. And like I said, it could be that they did all these other things because of the way he plays, or he's playing this way, exaggerating his movements because of the way that they've modified the kit and what the engineer's doing. Regardless, it is this smooth drumming style that perfectly accents the visuals, the atmosphere that the music is crafting here. Because aside from the drums, we have guitar, we have keyboard. I don't remember seeing a bass. Let me check real quick. I remember hearing some low end stuff, but it's possible it was coming from our keyboardist. There is not a good shot of the whole stage, is there? No, that looks like it doesn't look like there's a drummer here. I mean, a bassist here. So yeah, the guitar and the keyboard. The guitar is for most of this laying down the emotional groundwork of the chord. There's a lot of arpeggiation of strumming out a chord one note at a time, really laying down the foundational work. Whereas our keyboardist occasionally leans into that, but is more about building the atmosphere the embellishing ideas, the sound effects, and any extra timbres that are going to help fill the space out. Like when we hit that really fuzzy sound a couple minutes into the track, came from the keyboardist. They're really the what I would probably call the auxiliary instruments here, where our rhythm and foundation are crafted from the guitar and drums, and the keyboard's job is not to create harmony or melody or foundation. It's to do all the cool things that electronic instruments can do and to build the character of the song. Interestingly, though, not a lot of this calls much attention to itself. It's all there to build the atmosphere, not to have the spotlight, which brings us back to, well, we're kind of done explaining how the song builds up now. Just imagine all those parts coming in bars apart from each other. Um, what we have, though, here is a song that is designed to craft a specific atmosphere, not get in the way of our lead melody, not to steal any attention, but just to be the foundation of the vocals. In a lot of ways, this is crafted very closely to a pop track. The vocals are present through pretty much every moment of the song. They're one of the first things we hear. They are the last thing we hear. And, oh, no, they're not the last thing we hear. They're close to the last thing we hear, though. They are on top of everything. They are clearly heard. They're the most important thing. They have the moving lines. Without them, it's just an atmosphere that is. The vocals are what give the context to the atmosphere. And through that, we have just a gorgeous, dynamic melody line. There are micro loops within it, but on the whole, it feels rather linear. It feels like it's always moving towards the ending, honestly. Even when we loop back into the chorus, even when the verse loops back on its riff, it always feels like it's pushing forward. And even when we repeat ideas, we find ways to put variations on them, little embellishments when we're holding a note out, changes in pitch or key. Instead of, landing on a third, lands on the fifth, to provide a bit more stability to the end of a line on the second time through or something like that. And so it ends up feeling very familiar by the end of the track, but also exceptionally varied and contrasty. It never really feels like we've looped in on itself and become repetitive. We've just heard a lot of variations on two different ideas. That makes it feel linear but familiar at the same time. And of course, you can't talk about the vocals without talking about the passion and the emotional element of it. Really finds a way to extract the feeling of the atmosphere that's crafted and embellish it and push it to the forefront and say, this is what this song is about. This is what you should be feeling. This is what my melody is extracting from there. And you can not only just hear it in the music, what's on the paper, the note relationships between the chords lying underneath and the vocal melody, but also just her performance and the raw passion that goes into the way that she projects and delivers these vocals. It is a song that, especially if you have the volume high on the higher end, you can really feel the emotion. It becomes very palpable to feel this song, and it can be quite impactful. Probably more so when you know what the lyrics are. I caught the beginning, which was about falling and having someone catch you, and that's primarily because the lyrics were the only thing really going on there. But once the song picked up some pace and added more layers, I stopped paying attention to the lyrics. I don't know what the rest of the track was about. Um, but yeah, you can feel this thing has a ton of emotional resonance to it, and it's delivered by both the foundational elements that craft the emotion and then the passion that goes into the delivery. The other thing to say about the vocals is, unlike the rest of the instruments, they were put on display. not just in the production and that they're louder or more present than anything else, but that they are also given a chance to shine. And as usual, this isn't throwing shade at the rest of the band. I don't know what their musical capabilities are. This song didn't allow for them to be expressive in that way. Um, but the vocals certainly were, and they stole the spotlight for that reason, which I think is just appropriate, given that the lyrics, I think, are going to be the key aspect of this track, much like a pop track would be. But we got to hear a massive range. We got to hear a ton of control. We got to hear a ton of precision, neat flourishes, and then even at the end, we got to hear a phenomenal whistle tone that had so much body and resonance to it. I don't even know. My gut reaction says there's a lot of engineering going on there, but whistle tones, if you know what you're doing, you can really make some full bodied notes with that technique. So I don't know, maybe she did back away from the microphone and she was like even angling away from it, and it was still rather prominent in the mix. So I mean, she might have been belting right there too. But yeah, the vocal work was just phenomenal, which I'm sure is why this was um, tossed my way. It's a slow burn with a bunch of less complex parts to it. There's not a lot of music to break down in this track, but it is a phenomenally uh, performed track with a ton of emotion to it, and a lot of that is due to the vocal work, both the performance, probably the lyrics, and the production of it all. So we've kind of danced around this quite a bit. The lyrics seem to be key. We got to get into this and figure out what the song's kind of meaning. So let's do that. And this seems to be about a strong relationship with someone. That relationship could be a ton of things. It could be platonic, it could be spiritual, it could be romantic. But I mean, the chorus, I think, kind of spells it out. We have a variation on it, but it's if I just run them together, the original and the variation, it's pretty clear. Um, it says, I'm falling down, hoping you'll catch me before I hit the ground. You are all I see. For you, I am falling free. You, my destiny. For you, I am falling free. Very clear thesis statement there. The first stanza is a little rough for me, but the second stanza makes perfect sense. I've walked the steepest mountains, sailed the seven seas. I've been looking for you in every part of me. Now I surrender. I'm falling down, hoping you will catch me before I hit the ground. So I have so much faith and trust in you. You're everything that I want in my life, right? You're everything that I would want to be a part of. So I'm going to throw myself here, and I hope you'll catch me. I think it's interesting. It doesn't say I know you'll catch me. It says I hope you'll catch me before I hit the ground. A lot of faith to put into somebody when you're not quite sure that they're the person you think they are. Um, but yeah, it's a beautiful track, beautiful lyrics. Uh, Makes me think about the ending though. I mean, in kind of a morbid direction, if there was that more traditional brumka at the end of the track to really signify a solid ending, um, and we're talking about somebody falling free, hoping they're caught, that that kind of has a dark connotation to it. However, the direction we do go, where there is no final hit, a hard hit, and it's sort of just this airy dispersion, um, kind of reminds me of hyper stylized animation where somebody gets caught and like the dust from under the person's arms down by their feet, like there's so much wind being pushed or being moved out of the way by this falling object that like the dust spreads even though they never touch the floor. That sort of kind of thing is what the ending makes me think of. So maybe they did get caught. Maybe they're still falling. Yeah. The song didn't really have a strong resolution, a strong ending there. Could kind of signify a couple of things. But yeah, gorgeous track. Beautiful lyrics. If a bit sad, like I said, still don't know what happened, and we don't have any information about the other person, entity, to know if they are reciprocative, if they reciprocate the feelings of this person who has put all their trust into them. And if they don't care, they'll be like, I ain't going to catch you. I don't even know who you are. So, yeah, it's kind of left open to interpretation. There's a lot of vague elements in both the lyrics and the music, at least specifically the ending of the music, that could kind of go either way. Those are my thoughts on Eivor's Falling Free. Let me know what you thought of this track. Did you enjoy it? Was there anything that stood out to you? Maybe something that I talked about and didn't go deep enough into, or maybe something you heard that I didn't talk about at all. Maybe you have your own perspective on it. Let me know any of that and more down in the comments section. Above the comments is a description box, and in there is a link for Linktree. Takes you to this menu right here. You can find ways to support the channel, a link to my music, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three. We do have a creator request coming up next. Be sure to check that out. Otherwise, I'll be back tomorrow. We're going to do an album review for Colors 2, Between a Buried and Me. Sunday, we have our live stream for patrons only in the morning. Same time as always, 11 a.m. EST. And Monday, we'll be back with next week's theme, which is telling song titles. It's about song titles that when you see them, they immediately tell you what the song's about. You know exactly what you're in store for just by the title of the track. So I'm pretty excited about that. Until next time, you guys, have a fantastic. No, be critical, not cynical. That's the first part of the sign off, isn't it? With the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening.